Okay, so class, since we made mention already of the teaching strategies, so let me share to you the 3 kinds of strategies. So this can be individualized. As mentioned before, these are individualized teaching methodologies, methodologies for small groups, methodologies for a class. So all these teaching strategies can be used in developing emergent literacy skills. Okay. I'm not going to discuss all of this, but let us just point out which among these teaching strategies are mostly used in technology and livelihood education. So, but actually, it depends on the topic that you are going to deliver. But what I'm trying to just to tell you here is let's just point out what are the teaching methodologies that are usually used in teaching technology and livelihood education. So just like what I mentioned before, this can be applied in developing emergent literacy skills, because emergent, again, let me reiterate that when we speak of emergent, these are the beginners. So it doesn't again follow that this just entail, this is just referred to elementary pupils, but this is also pointing out those that are just beginners. Beginners of what? Beginning to learn on something, on a particular lesson. Okay? So now, why is it that our focus is on teaching strategies? Because if we are going to look back the first description, so again, the literacy skills that we are pointing out here are the 21st. It doesn't necessarily mean, so that's why I keep on telling you that the emergent literacy, traditionally, these are just the elementary pupils. But now that we are focused now on the 21st century, the emergent learners here are the so-called beginners to learning something on a particular skill. So in the 21st century literacies, this include now the globalization and multicultural literacy, social literacy, media literacy, financial literacy, cyber literacy or digital literacy, eco-literacy, and arts and creativity literacy. All of this will be discussed. Each one will be discussed in this course. Okay, now, the students in this course is expected to develop skills in using appropriate teaching strategies and resources, including the positive use of ICT. Okay. So now, so that's why I keep on pointing out teaching strategies. Okay, and the different 21st century literacy skills. So going back to the 3 teaching strategy methodologies that I presented, a while ago. So under individualized teaching methodology, now again, like what I've said, methodologies, strategies, and techniques are being used interchangeably. But although they have some part of these terms they have this similarity, but these three terms are different. Okay, but somehow part of these terms they have something in common, because all of this are being used by the teachers in the delivery of a particular lesson. So again, let's just review. When we speak of methodology, again, these are the systematic way, or these are the step-by-step way in presenting a lesson. There is the systematic way. When we speak of strategy now, this is how the teacher will going to attack the topic. So there is already the methodology that he or she is about to use in presenting a particular topic, but he has or she has his clever way, unique way, or approach how this particular methodology will be delivered to the class. Now, when we speak of technique, so like what I said before, technique, there is an art. So if that is your if you already have this strategy, if you already have this methodology, now the question now when it comes to technique is how will you make learning become fun? Okay, so what are the ways that you are going to integrate now to your class just to make sure that the learners will become attentive, that the learners will become interested, that they will have fun. So what is this art that you are going to incorporate in your methodology that will become part of your strategy as well? Okay, like for example, in constructivist approach, this is one of the teaching methodology in individualized teaching. Okay, so for the constructivist approach views learning as a process of constructing meaning, which is greatly influenced by the learner's accumulated experiences and understandings. So this constructivist approach is usually used in technology and livelihood education. Okay, because the teacher will now be providing an environment to the students in which the students will experience on something in which it will lead now for these students to construct how they understand the experience that they have. Okay. It is likewise viewed as a social process in which learners construct meaning through the interaction of prior knowledge and new learning events. As an active process, the learner continuously revises past learning and reconstruct concepts as they interact daily with the environment. Actually, this was already mentioned by Piaget. Okay, the assimilation and accumulation. correct me if I'm wrong, for the assimilation, the learners is trying to connect their past experience to the present, in which that will lead them to really understand what is about to be learned. And then for the accommodation, that is now the part in which after experiencing something, and then the learners realize that there is something wrong with that learnings that they have. So that is now the time that they are going to remove that learning. So that is accommodation. Okay? To remove that learning, since they realize that that is not the right information. So in constructivist approach, in this constructivism, this is anchored on the assumption that the absorption or assimilation of knowledge is somewhat personal, and therefore no two learners can build up the same meaning out of one situation. Yes, that is true, because no two brains are the same, correct? So the perception of one learner may differ to another. Knowledge, therefore, is the result of the learner's own construction of reality. It involves a continuous creation of rules to explain an observation, and in the process, checks new information against prior knowledge to come up with a new understanding. So in technology and livelihood education, this constructivist approach is usually used because teachers believe, but well, like what I've said, again, it depends the kind of methodology that will be used, kind of strategy, technique that will be integrated into the learning process depends on the topic. I'm not saying that this constructivist approach is the thing that the TLE should always use, but of course it depends on the topic, on the students, on the teacher, on the environment. There are a lot of things to be considered. Okay. So what are the characteristics when it comes to instructional for the constructivist? From the constructivist perspective, teaching is not considered as merely transmitting knowledge and information. So, to students, but rather as providing students with relevant experiences from which they can construct their own meaning. So like what I've said a while ago, that the teacher will be in this kind of approach. The teacher will be providing an environment in which the students will learn on something about the lesson to be lesson for that particular day. And then with that environment, with the materials that were provided by the teacher, that will lead for the student now to construct their own understanding. And of course, the teacher should always be there to facilitate whether the learners are on the right track. The teacher acts as a facilitator, providing opportunities for stimulating dialogue so that meaning could evolve and be constructed. And the teacher, just like the teacher should always be around to see to it that they are on the right track, that the the knowledge that they are about, that the learners is about to construct, is what is the knowledge that is expected to be imparted to the student. Her repertoire of instructional materials include learning activities and events rather than fixed documents that almost always are learned and questioned and simply recalled. The teacher ceases to be the traditional sole source of authority in the classroom, because the teacher here believed that it is what the learners do. It is not what the teacher do that the learners will learn, but it is what the learners do that they will learn. And again, that will now lead for the student to understand what should be learned. Okay? It will lead now for them to construct their own understanding. So that is not the knowledge that is expected to be imparted to the student. Necessarily, her lesson are activity-oriented in order for them to experience or gain personal knowledge through active involvement. So participation with understanding enable them to live through a learning episode, thus discovering information by themselves. Actually, this is very important, this approach. It will just be implemented or delivered well, because when learners were the one who constructed their own understanding, which is correct. Okay, so that learning will be stored in a long-term memory. So since they were the one who made a way for them to be able to understand the topic, it is difficult for them to forget that learning. Okay, so that's why it is very important nowadays that the learners will be given different activities for them to be able to construct their own understanding. Because again, like what I've said, it is what the learners do that they learn, instead of saying it is not what the teachers do that they will learn. Okay. Okay, so that is for the constructivist approach. So from the word constructivist, they will be the one to construct. But of course, learners will be the one to construct their understanding. But of course, with the guidance, with the help of the facilitator or by the teachers. Okay, another from the individualized teaching methodology that is being used is the experiential learning. Well, obviously, in technology and livelihood education, because this is more of practicality rather on the theory. Okay, although, of course, we really cannot avoid the fact that we also have this theory. But usually when it comes to technology and livelihood education, what is being highlighted there, or the focus there, the main focus here is the skill. Okay. So experiential learning, another methodology from Individualized. Educators are foremost believers in the old age. Experience is the best teacher, because when we experience it, we remember it. Okay? So it is not difficult. It will not just easily fade in our memory. A natural part of learning, if this be true, is the occurrence of personal knowledge or personal involvement. To experience an event means to live through, to actually see, feel, or encounter an incident or a certain situation. Because if we were able to experience it, of course, we can tell, we can narrate what happened, what transpired, because we experienced it. Okay. So, like for example, in HE, if you were able to cook that particular food, then it's easy for you to retell to anyone. It can be you as a speaker in a particular organization. It will not be difficult because you experience it. Okay? In teacher learning episodes, experience is at the base. It is the foundation upon which new ideas and behaviors are formed. With prior experience, students are able to create their own meanings, concepts, and perspectives. Hence, the need for activity-centered teaching methodologies wherein they undergo directly an intelligent use of all their senses. So, what are the characteristics when it comes to instructional? Experiential learning is essentially a way of acquiring knowledge of skills through direct and keen observations, followed by an analysis of what has been sensed and understood. Then, the particular experience acquires meaning through an intellectual process termed reflection. To reflect simply means to deliberate, reason, and mull over carefully. So, through experience, after experiencing something, that is the time that we can now reflect. Like for example, in doing a particular project. So you experience doing on something. So after experiencing and finishing that particular task, of course, the next thing that you will be doing now is to reflect. Okay, so you're now going to reflect what are the good things that you did. Okay, so you're going to reflect, or like for example, you did a project. You're now going to reflect what are the best practices in doing that particular project, what should not be done, the do's and don'ts, that next time for you to be able to make this project better, what will be the do's and don'ts. Okay, so actually, in experiencing something, reflect the best thing to do here is to write a journal about your reflection, that next time the things that you will not be doing is like this. Like for example, in home economics, after cooking, what will you do after being successful in cooking something? Then the feedback, when we say good cooking, is the feedback is good. They all say that the taste is good. So you're now going to make a reflection. Okay, next time I'm going to maintain all this thing that I did. Okay, so if for example there are some feedback like it tastes good but it's just salty, so you're going to reflect, okay, next time I'm going to lessen the salt. Okay, so that's it. Okay, like for example, like in AFA, you planted on something and then the harvest is good. So you're now going to make a reflection, okay, how many days how many days to grow this kind of plant? What did you do every day to make this plant grow like this? So through experience, you become keen and observant. Okay, so children learn best from experiences with natural occurrences and with concrete objects in the environment because you experience it. So you are confident to say or to defend on something because you really experience it. And you really can tell that based on my experience, this is what happened, and this is the result. Experiences gained through interactions with other individuals also promote learning situations. So you can relate now to some of your classmates, to some of your colleagues, what really transpired because you had this experience, you had that experience. Such accumulated experiences are further examined and evaluated by themselves, thus enabling them to formulate new insights as well as gain new skills. So that's what I'm saying a while ago, that when you experience it, then you narrate it or you make a journal, then at least there is this new insight that, okay, next time, this will be the thing that you will be doing. Okay? Experiential learning requires that a child should be personally involved in the learning task. The knowledge or information must be discovered by the child herself, and the objectives of the learning activity must be clearly understood at the same time, allowing flexibility in their own ways of pursuing them. Well, of course, in experiential learning, the main goal here is for the learners to discover herself or himself the learning. So the teacher here should not tell right away to the students what should transpire. Let the students discover it, see it for themselves. Experiential learning can be distinguished from other teaching models in that it emphasizes directly experiencing what one is studying, also making conclusions and generalizations based on direct experiences. But before a child can fully benefit from an experience, he should first develop some basic skills, such as the ability to listen critically and to observe keenly to an intelligent use of all the senses. She should be able to develop the ability to analyze observations upon which she can formulate new concepts and understand things. So in experiential learning, so that's why we made mention of reflection, because there is a need for the students here to listen critically, not just to listen, but to become attentive, observant, for them to be able to have this accurate information. Because if they will not be doing this seriously, then all of the resources, time, effort will just be put on trash. It will just be a waste of time. They will not become serious of this. Because of course, it will not lead for the students to have an accurate result when it comes to the information. On the part of the teacher, she should listen carefully and be able to pick up subtle cues from every classroom encounter. So this is very important, to right away, to immediately correct, to make sure that the students are always on the right track. Because maybe the teacher will not become attentive as well to the learning experiences of the students. What will happen is the teacher will not be aware that the students are now learning on something that is not correct. Okay, so they should be guided. Maybe the learners will now start to believe on something that is not correct. So the role of the teacher here as well is to become attentive. For the teacher to make sure that the learners are always on the right track. She should lead the students in connecting the current experience to previous ones, thus create new insights and perspectives. Okay, so I pointed out two methodologies for individualized teaching, the Constructivist Approach and the Experiential Learning under Individualized teaching methodologies. But like what I've said, I'm not saying that the other methodologies here it's not possible to be applied in technology and livelihood education. What I'm just trying to tell you here is, I just pointed out the methodology that are usually used in technology and livelihood education.